line. Bad bitches, every city in my tribe. Look behind. Booty dominate.
Hello, welcome.
Hello, welcome. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I just wanted to kind of go down a couple of your points that you had about whether it be pro-choice or do men really want to protect you, body count doesn't matter, patriarchy harms everyone. Um, I'm just curious as to how you think that the patriarchy, which is something that was, that name was invented, how does that harm people? I want to hear from you.
Sure. So I think there's a lot of intersection that I can take with this, but if we're just going to make it like singularly out within the patriarchy, I think the patriarchy has established authority of men through violence. And we can see that violence is perpetuated against women in order to
Mhm.
maintain their patriarchal structured gender role. And the same goes for men.
Okay. So when you speak about patriarchy, are you only speaking about exactly what you said, where there are men that want to dominate through violence? Is that all that you're speaking about? Or are you actually talking about the world that we live in, which, look, you can call men what you want, but men built this society, men maintain the society. Men are plumbers, men are builders, men are bricklayers. Men do all this shitty work that women don't want to do. So, how are we blamed for being patriarchs when we're the ones doing the shitty work? You can't get thrown into a war that you don't want to go into because you're a woman. So, you
So I'm going to stop
specifically,
you right there because I feel you're going to give me several points, and I just want to make sure
okay,
that I
go ahead.
accurately
Yeah,
address
go ahead.
each point.
Yes,
So
please.
I think that statement that you made right there
Mhm.
completely minimized the contributions that women have made to society.
Which statement?
Um, that men have built society and men maintain society, because that is
Okay. So
categorically
prove me wrong. So prove me
I
wrong.
am going to, if you would
Thank
stop
you.
talking. Great.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate you giving me permission to
I
speak.
did. I didn't give you permission. I just said go
You
ahead.
said go ahead. Yeah, that's permission.
Okay. Take that how you
So when
want.
we,
But
I'm sorry, do you need like a cue to know when to stop talking?
no. Do you need a cue to know when to stop talking?
You've made a statement. I'm
Yeah.
going to make a counter. Is it not my turn to speak?
Go ahead.
Okay, so it is my turn to speak. So why did you ask me, do I know when to stop speaking when it is my turn?
Because you interrupted me as I was literally speaking and making a point. You wanted to
I
stop me.
interrupted you from making
You just
several
did it
points.
again. You just did it
Correct.
again.
I interrupted you from because I'm trying to correct your statement. I
Okay.
interrupted you from making
All right. Go.
several
Go ahead and
points
correct.
so that
Go
I
ahead
can
and correct
actually
my
address
statement.
your
Go
points.
ahead. Correct my statement.
Well, thank you again for giving
You're
me permission.
welcome. You're welcome.
So again, with your statement, you are minimizing women's contribution, because in order for men to have the ability to go out and participate economically, there had to be someone to maintain the household as well as raise the children. If you want an example, I believe it was in Sweden, they call it the Long Friday, where women went on strike and said, we will no longer take care of for the day. They essentially went on strike within the country, were in the streets, uh, and we can see that the economy greatly suffered, because then men were essentially signed with taking care of the children. Schools were not open. Grocery stores ran out of pre-made meals because men didn't know how to exactly take care of the children. Radio stations, you could hear children in the background because men had to take them to work. The economy seized because of the unpaid domestic labor that women were no longer performing. So that is how you minimized women's work. Another argument that I would make is that historically, women have participated in many of the jobs that you cited. If we look at the early 19th century, a majority of factory and textile workers were immigrant women.
And where were the men? Hold on. Hold on.
They
Deal
were,
with deal with what you're saying. The
I
women
am,
were working in factories. Where were the men?
In the early 18th century
You said
or the early 19th
1940s.
century?
Yeah, you said in the early 1900s. So
No, I
when was
said
World
19th
War One?
century.
Okay, when was World War One?
I said early 19th century, which is
Yes,
the 1800s.
19th century. When was World War One? Where were
World
the
War One
women
was in the
during
20th
World War One?
century.
Oh Lord. You know, the greatest person that I've ever known in my life is my mother, who's a woman, because I was raised by a single mom. The biggest thing that she taught me was that each one of us have a role. You kind of clearly defined some of those roles. We all have a role. And to all of those follower, followers of yours that are putting little shrimps, calling me a shrimp dick, call me what you want. I know the reality. The reality is that men and women have roles in society. And that doesn't mean that men are a patriarchy. It just means we carry certain roles that women don't. Men are physically stronger than women.
These roles
Women,
have been designed in order to make women submissive to men and
I'm
to
sorry,
put men
say
in
that one more
dominant
time. I didn't hear you.
positions.
Can you say that one more time? I didn't hear you.
These roles that have been designed by the patriarchy are
Uh-huh.
designed to make women submit to men and put men in one
Why
second
haven't
and
women
put
been
men
strong
in
enough?
dominant positions. But I want to go back to that statement that you made
Yeah.
because you asked me when World War One was, and that
Yeah.
was in the 20th century. So can you tell me what was your point with that?
My point is to any part of our history, you can go back to as far as when history was first being written down in whatever scripture you want, in whatever piece of paper you want. There have been roles that have been set for men and roles that have been set for women. Now, that's
That's
not
incorrect.
saying, hold on, that is not saying that women are not strong. Women do not have, you know, they don't have dominance in this culture. They don't have things that are advancing this culture. I'm not saying that at all. Not at all. What I'm
Again,
saying,
you've kind of gone off on a tangent. So when I talked about the early 19th century and that women were actually doing the labor that you
yeah,
said they weren't,
no, no, no.
you
I said
mentioned
they were
something about
doing
the
the labor.
20th century.
Hold on. I said they were doing the labor.
Well, you said that women don't want to do these laborious jobs that men do,
They
and
don't.
historically they
They
have.
don't. They don't. They just had
Historically
no
they have.
choice. Hold on. They had no choice because all of the men were at war. So it's not
Not
that
in
they
the early
wanted to do
19th
those things.
century.
Is
Or
that
I'm
they,
sorry, not in the early 19th century. That's not true.
okay. So
Like you understand the 19th
before,
century is the 1800s,
yeah,
correct?
yes, I do. Thank you.
Then why did
Thank
you
you.
bring up World War One, which
Well,
was in the
because
early
that
20th
that
century?
was at the cusp. That was at the cusp of the 19th century. Now, if you think back
At
to
the
let's
end,
let's go
no,
back to
no,
the
it was in the
1800s.
beginning of
Okay,
the
let's go
20th
back to the
century.
1800s.
Wait,
Let's go
wait,
back.
it was in the beginning of the 18th century or the 20th century.
Correct.
So not in the beginning of the 19th century. So I'm literally talking 100 years before.
Okay, so 100 years before, what war was in place 100 years before World War One?
You tell me. This is your argument.
Okay, well, there were plenty of them. One of them was the famine that was in Ireland. And take a wild guess
We were
as
talking about the United States.
it doesn't matter who you're talking. You're talking about the patriarchy. We're both talking about the patriarchy. The patriarchy
Correct.
doesn't just exist in the United States. It exists all around the
But
world.
were men in the United States
Okay,
at
so
war in
men in the
Ireland?
United States. Okay, so men in the United States do a majority, even now to this day, do a majority of the shit work in this country. Okay, let me
So
tell you,
do women.
up until the age of 25, women
Wait,
make
wait.
more
So
money
do
than
women. Okay,
up.
I'm going to abandon that
Hold-
first statement because I think you just confused 19th and 20th century, which I think
Oh
is really
Lord,
funny.
no, I did
But
not. No, I did
you
not.
did. It was really
No,
funny. I'll play it
sorry,
back. Don't
didn't.
worry. I'll post the
Sorry,
clip.
just because you're a woman doesn't mean you're right.
Um,
I'm sorry. Sorry,
I
you're
know
not
you're
right.
sorry.
You're absolutely
So
wrong. You're
no, you
absolutely
did.
wrong.
You fucked it up. Let's just
Okay.
be honest.
I didn't F anything up.
So
I didn't F anything
again,
up.
historically, when you talk about these gender roles, you are wrong. Like
Really?
there was a
I'm
study
wrong about
released this
gender roles.
year.
I'm wrong
Yeah,
about gender roles.
what? Yes, let me finish.
Okay.
Um, there was a study released this year talking about the hunter-gatherer myth. that men are primarily big game hunters and women were gatherers.
Correct.
No, in historical society, there were more examples of women participating in big game hunting as well as military service. So no,
Participating is different than leading.
they were leading as well. I can point to several bone remain finds of female warriors.
Which ones?
For example, the Berta warrior.
Okay. So that's one out of how many hundreds of
If you
thousands?
want to talk about other tribes like the Scythian tribes, they fought on horseback with bow and arrow, so there was no innate advantage to men being warriors. 1/3 were women and girls.
The Mohawk women?
70
Hold on.
Scythian tribes.
The Mohawk women,
78%.
the Mohawk women were just as much of a warrior as the Mohawk men were. Okay? However, what roles were taken by who? The men, even though the women were just as good of warriors as they were, the women still understood that, hey, we each have a role in society. I'm sorry, but you're never
That's
going to
not
be.
true. I can point to Joan of Arc. I can
Okay,
again, this whole traditional
you are
roles that you
gathering
are
the
perpetuating
smallest.
is
You can point to Joan
historically
of Arc.
not
I could point to
true.
100,000 men. You can point to Joan of Arc. I could point
Again,
to
that's
all
because
the men that
women's
I was deployed with.
contributions are
All the men that I
invisible,
was
which is
deployed
why
with,
you don't
less
know them.
than 0.01% were actually women. I've been
That's
in
not
combat
true.
multiple times. Not once was there a woman in combat next to me. Now, that does not delete the role that they had. They had a very specific role in combat. It just was not in combat. It was
It
supporting
has been in
people that
combat
were in
historically.
combat.
It
Listen,
absolutely has been. If you want to talk about modern times,
yeah.
I would argue that's because gender roles have again doubled down under the patriarchy. Because again, it puts women in a subordinate and submissive position, and this is how men have established their authority,
Okay, so
especially within modern
who
day.
established the patriarchy? Who established it?
Like the origin,
Yeah. Who established the patriarchy?
violent men.
Okay, so why didn't violent women stand up against those violent men and say, fuck you on the patriarchy, we are going to do what we're going to do? Why didn't that happen?
I think because women still have a sense of their humanity,
Oh,
which I would
and you're
argue you
saying that
kind of
men
just proved
don't,
my
and
point
you're
that
saying
women
that,
are better than
hold
men.
on, by
Because
your
even when
logic,
faced with violence, we haven't
you're
done
stating
violence
that
back.
men don't have a sense of their humanity, right? Is that your logic? Is that men don't have a sense of their humanity?
Men have lost a sense of their humanity because of patriarchal ideals, yes.
Really? Okay, what sense of humanity have men in general lost?
Their perpetuation for violence.
Um, I
Do
will,
you
I
think
will,
a
I will.
majority of people who commit violence are men?
Okay, okay. If you want to
That's a yes
go,
or no.
yeah, yes, 100%,
Okay, great. So why
100%.
is violence a men's issue?
Because men typically are more violent. Men typically are dominant.
Why?
Because
Why?
that's how we're built. Because that's how we are
So what
built.
is it? Wait, so what is it?
Women in general are not built to be violent. They are not.
What is it? What is it? Tell me what it
Women
is.
in general are built to not be
Be
violent.
specific.
I'm being specific. Women are
You're
not
just
built to be
saying women
violent.
are not built. In what capacity?
Okay. In the just the capacity of strength. You take an average 150, 160 pound man. You put him against the same weight of a woman with the same height. I guarantee you that man is at least 40% stronger than that
Are
woman. So
strong
guess
men the
what?
leaders of our
So
country?
no. Okay. I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
Are strong men the leaders of our country? Are strong men CEOs? Are strong men rich?
Well, yes, strong men are rich. Strong men
Really?
are
So Jeff Bezos is where he is today
Hold
because of
on.
his
Are you going to
strength.
let me answer the question? Are you going to let me answer the
You did
question?
answer the question. You
No,
said
I did
yes.
not. You let me get
You
one
said
word in
yes.
and then you cut me off.
You
Men,
said
yes,
yes.
men are typically CEOs. 85%
Well, I'm asking, are strong
85%,
men
85%,
CEOs?
85% of CEOs in the United States are men. 85%.
It's more than that.
95% of men are serving combat in the military, not women, because women cannot do it. Women cannot do as many push-ups as men can do. Women cannot be as violent as
Okay,
men are.
wait.
Men
So
are
you said,
violent
wait.
because
You
we
said
have
a
to
lot
protect
there.
this
You said a lot
society.
there.
We have to
So,
protect
oh
this
my gosh, do
society.
I need to mute you?
Men, listen, if you
Listen,
yourself, and I'm just going to speak about you, if you call 911 because some guy's breaking in.
listen. No, we're not gonna listen. I don't know what's so hard about going point by point. Why you think you need to like go on this tirade? I love that you're triggered though. It's really fulfilling for me. It's kind of a kink. So number one, it's more than 85% of American CEOs are men, but that's not what I asked you. I asked you if they are the strongest men, because if you're going to talk about this hierarchy, this hegemony, like that men are at the top because they're stronger, then the strongest men would be at the top, because not every man. There are weak men, there are strong men, there are men who are in the middle. So the strongest by your logic should rise to the top, because that's why men are at the top. Number two, when it comes to military service and actual strategy within war, it's not brute force that wins war. It is tactical strategies as well as access to resources. Most soldiers died of starvation or thirst. So if you can get your troops access to food and water, you're more likely to survive, not just having hundreds of like strong men just at the front lines. Even in modern day, you must realize that a majority of wars are won based on technology and access to weapons. Like, come on, let's be better.
So, did you mute me in order to get your point across? Because there was plenty of things I had to say to that. First of all,
Yeah, I muted you because you don't understand how to take turns and go
I'm sorry,
point by
either do
point.
you.
You
Either do
just
you,
look, here
because
you are
you
again.
you
You're
talk
just
over me.
going on
You talk over
tangents.
me. You talk over me the entire time.
I only interrupt you to stop you from making
You
10
still
points
shouldn't
at
interrupt
once
me. If I'm
or to
speaking, then let me
clarify
speak.
points.
You still shouldn't interrupt me. If I'm
I'm
speaking,
very
let me
much,
speak.
one second, I'm very much a person on this app who wants to give people the space to speak. If I mute you, it is because you are crowding the space to speak and overutilizing the space to speak and not actually partaking in constructive dialogue. So that is why you are muted. But if you would like to now respond to what I just said, the floor is yours.
Oh, so I have permission to speak now from you. Okay, cool. Listen, what I said about men being CEOs, I'm sorry, prove me wrong. They are. The majority of men in this country are CEOs. Or excuse me, I misspoke. The majority of CEOs are men in this country.
Okay, let's talk about that point.
That's just
Let's
a
talk about
fact.
that
That
point.
is just a
Right.
fact. It is not.
I didn't
It's
dispute
not.
that
See,
fact
you're interrupting me again, and I'm sorry, but
because I'm
it's no.
responding. And I even said I didn't dispute that.
Okay, bye. Thank God. Oh my God.
I'm so fucking cute, bitch. I'm so fucking cute.